welcome. I just kind of did a little something there. Welcome to Classroom Crush. It's me, Rebecca. Oh God, did you see? I'm in Vulture magazine. That was crazy. This is post Vulture magazine moment in which they say, listen to the podcast, and I say, I agree. Thank you very much. Hopefully you're listening. Maybe you're new. Hi, if you're new, nice to meet you. Welcome. This is Classroom Crush. It's a podcast about childhood crushes and how they inform the way you view love and relationships as an adult, and it's really fun. I'm really excited for this guest. I have actually wanted this guest on for a minute, and I was like, oh, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know. Like, is it, I don't know. You know, the classic, I don't know dance. But, you know, fate has allowed, as in I did finally do a DM and I'm really excited to have her on. She said, you go for it. You go for an intro. And I said, all right, this is what I'm going to say. This person, first of all, I mean, what's very close to my heart is that she's very funny on Twitter and very horny on Maine. And that is what is very close to me personally. But beyond that, she is a culture writer. She, you know, and I don't think I necessarily knew this when I first like started following you. And, you know, I don't even know when that was, but like very explicitly an abolitionist. She's very fucking like, that has been, it's always very cool when someone that you mostly are just like, oh, I like how they talk and write and are cool and funny. And then it's like, wait, we might have some of the same values. That rocks. I don't know how I got there. Anyways, that also makes me very excited to have her on. And her name is Hanna Phifer. Did I say it right? Hanna Phifer?
Yes.
Okay. I'm like, there can't be that many ways, right? to say that
Oh,
one.
the other way you were thinking. I've gotten Phifer before.
Phifer? It wasn't that, but I think that's pretty funny. Phifer. So interesting. I mean, I hear people will really choose like, my last name is Bolnez, which I already think is not a very pretty last name, you know, but people will just choose the worst, ugliest ways to say it, you know, Bones, Rebecca Bones. And that's why my Instagram is Bones with a Z, because I was trying to like reclaim it for myself, even though who cares? But anyways, how are you today? You're good. We talked about it. You're great. Are you excited?
I thought we were recording then.
We definitely weren't. Oh my God, we definitely weren't. I'm sorry. Let's do that all over again. Our like little, hi, nice to meet you.
I'll just erase everything that already happened.
Perfect. No, it's all gone. We're here now. We're ready. We're going to talk about childhood crushes. Do you, first of all, did you agree with my introduction? You let me do it.
Yes, it was wonderful. I didn't know, I don't know what people think when they see my Twitter or my online presence. So it's always interesting to hear that.
I think that, you know, you're saying what some are too scared to say. You know, you're digging in the depths of, you know, primal desire often. And I really appreciate that. But also beyond that, it's a very like, I was actually describing, you know, because I was talking to someone how I was going to do this episode, and I was like, it's really true chaotic good energy. Like if you can have the most pure version of it, that's how I feel it is. It's like I'm laughing, I'm horny, but then you also say something like very incisive and smart, and I'm like, oh, cool. You know, we have it all. We have it absolutely all going on in your Twitter.
I'm glad I can provide.
I'm so happy. Like, you know, it's a really terrible place, but at least I have that, you know, it dwindles the reasons to stay, honestly. How do you feel about Twitter currently? Online.
You know, I've always told people like I'm actively working for a career where I don't have to use Twitter anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. You grew up where?
In Charlotte, North Carolina, born, raised, residing here.
And I want to know what kind of kid you are growing up. Well, first I usually ask, you know, like, were you a crush inclined kid from a young age? Yes.
Very much so. But growing up, I don't know, I was always really shy. I still feel like I am offline. When people meet me, they're always shocked just by how quiet I am. Uh, and so
See,
I was
yeah.
really sheltered. I wasn't allowed to go out much. And so that's how I became like so obsessed with like pop culture
Hmm.
because I was always online or watching TV. So
Was this like a religious sort of thing, or yeah, yes, big nod.
it's so funny because there were a lot of things that I wasn't allowed to watch. So it's funny to look back at the things I was allowed to watch.
Mm. Like what? What were you allowed to watch?
I mean, just there was kid stuff, but like the stuff I wasn't allowed to watch were a lot more exhaustive. There was like the obvious ones like Harry Potter, which I mean, now it's a
Mm.
great thing that I
I
didn't
mean,
have that.
hindsight. No.
But and then just like a lot of things with like witchery and stuff like that. And then I'm trying to think of like other things,
Just
but then I had an older brother, and so I watched like the things that he would watch, like Prison Break, and and so like I
that's
wasn't allowed
fine.
to watch like kids shows like that like what's that show on PBS like about the kids with the magic stone?
The kids with the magic stone. That's what it sounds like the title is. The kids with the magic stone.
It was like Dragon Tales. That's what
Oh,
it was. So
Dragon
like I wasn't
Tales.
allowed to watch that, but I was allowed to watch like Hell's Kitchen or.
Interesting.
So it was always a weird thing growing
That's
up.
so
But
that's very much like I mean I guess that makes sense in the religious whatever, like is it like dinosaurs bad? Like
yes.
yeah, okay, got it. Did you feel like yeah, did you feel very did you know you were sheltered, like you were itching to not to seek the things you were not supposed to seek?
Oh yeah, I knew very early on because like I said, I had a brother and so
Right.
he was a bit older and so I'd always see him going out. But it was always a combination of me being shy and then me being sheltered. So it was like this, compounding factors of just me
Mm.
being naturally introverted and then me not being able to, go
Did you
out or
feel
whatever.
like you were like kind of like an appeasing kid, sort of like, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My sister was like that for a long time. My sister's like 19 now, which is crazy, but for the longest time she was very like you'd be like, what do you want to do? Like and she'd be like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, no, I want to know what you want to do. But she has grown out of that. Now she kind of dresses like a vampire all the time, and it's very sick. But it's real like 180. Absolutely, something has to break open there. Um, so how were you taught about like desire then growing up and like and like love? Was that like just not talked about or like a no
It was
no?
talked about, but like in a very religious way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't have sex before marriage or like don't date too much or whatever. So it was always like that. But like I said, my parents were a lot older than like
Yeah.
this generation's parents. And so I was able to get onto the computer and they didn't know how to
Yes.
work it. And
Yes.
so I was able to sneak that through that way. And once my brother moved out, it even became more
Mm-hmm.
because they would make him monitor me. But once he moved out, I just sort of had like a free reign on the
No
internet. So
chaperone on the internet. What kind of communities are you finding? What are you starting to explore?
at that age,
Yeah, like when well, I guess yeah, when do you start exploring things that to you feel like quote unquote mature? Like you're not supposed to necessarily be indulging in.
I think I was like 15 when Tumblr really started to pop off.
Mhm.
Well, that's at least when I started using Tumblr.
Yeah.
And so, it was back when like titties were allowed to be on there.
Mhm.
And that was also around the time where I was like coming into my queerness. And so I would see like all these gifts and I would like store them on my computer.
Oh my
But then I would
god.
like delete them like a week later because I'm like, oh, I can't feel this way. And then
Yeah.
it would just become like this cycle of doing that.
Yeah, of course. I'm like I when you said that I just like flashed like sense memory some of like the gifs that I would save or that I remember there was one that was this close up of just like two tongues kissing, and it was like really. I basically found out later, I was like, this is the hottest like kiss I've ever seen in my life. And I would like try to figure out where it was from and stuff. And then I found out it was like a Jennifer's Body. Like I realized it was a Jennifer's Body kiss. And that's like one that I'm just like, oh yeah, I would see that all the time and be like, that's what I'm looking for, whatever this sexy kiss is. Did you, how were you socially? Like you were pretty shy growing up?
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact? Well, did you have some early crushes? What were some of your, I guess, did you want to talk about like one person, a couple people? Do you want to just talk about through your journey?
Well, I had crushes all the time, both on celebrities and like people I knew in real life. So
Yeah.
it was not, even though I was like sheltered and taught like, oh, sex is bad or having crushes is bad or something like that, I would still always get them. So
Of course. What do you remember some of your first ones being that you were like, oh, my body?
my first celebrity crush is so embarrassing. It was Aaron Carter.
Okay, you don't got to tell me. I was a big Aaron head. I used to fantasize about being his backup dancer on tour that then we like fall in love.
That's very specific. I just remember like at the time, like that episode of Lizzie McGuire that he was on.
It changed the game.
That was like my first very clear memory of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I that was really a moment in time. And like, do the kids have that these days? I don't know. Who's their Aaron Carter? Like, of these, there are big stars or whatever, but where's the Aaron Carter Lizzie McGuire moment? That we're really looking for.
I think Justin and Selena were like the closest for that, for like the Gen Zers and the younger millennials, but
yeah,
I don't know what the kids these days are looking to.
Did you ever watch Popstar? Not the Lonely Island, the actual Aaron Carter movie that he's in.
I think I saw a video breakdown of it a few months ago.
It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
I was so shocked by how like cheap it looked. I was like,
yeah, no one cared, I guess, at that point. So Aaron's getting you going. Who's starting to get you going, like in your real life, in your like school life or wherever?
I remember my first crush was like in kindergarten, and his name was like Parrish.
Okay.
And I don't remember much from it, but I do have like this weird memory of like being at the grocery store and like seeing him, and then like my brother like like intimidating him or something.
How many years older is your brother?
Oh, he's 7 years older.
Okay, so yeah, he's like he's significantly okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
So you ran into him at the grocery store, and your brother was not letting it happen.
Yes. And so that's the only memory I have. But then we had gone to high school together, but like I didn't like rekindle anything. Okay. I just remember being like, oh yeah, that's him.
That's that kid. No, yeah, it wasn't some twist of fate that found you together for a burning passion.
He was like this like skater kid at that point, and I was like, oh no, that's not at all what I'm into these days.
So yeah, I wonder about your types. Do you feel like you've had a sort of consistent thing that draws you towards people, or has it been kind of scattered?
It feels like scattered, even like these past few years. I'm still trying to like, I don't know. If someone's hot, they're hot.
Yeah, that does a lot when someone's hot. It's pretty wild. Do you, when you're starting to have these crushes, like especially in like middle school and stuff, when everything's percolating, are they things that you are even approaching like maybe we could date, or is it just like fantasy kind of vibes?
I think it was always just fantasy kind of vibes. I was, like I said, I was very shy and sheltered, and I knew my parents would even like take me on like a cute little mall date. So It was never that. So I always just like sort of just journaled about it and stuff like that.
Were these people you were like, were you friends with some of them, or were these people that you kind of just watched from afar?
Uh, I think it's sort of like a mixture of both. I wouldn't say we were friends, but I always like hung around.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were in the same circles. Let's just
Right.
say that.
Right. Yes. Yes. And that's, both the ideal and also the risk. It's, if it works out, how great, we're all friends. If it does, and this is just even in real adult life, right? Like, if it doesn't, how awkward is it going to be? And is it worth the try, Um, when are you starting to feel things that might resemble queer feelings?
This was around the time, like I said, during Tumblr
During Tumblr.
era. And I've always told people, like, I don't think I was like born this way. I don't think it was ever like,
Mm.
I was like 4 and had like this realization or something like that. It's always like I sort of came into it, which I think is fine. I don't think a lot of people like talking about that.
Well, it's like
always,
exposure, you don't know until you know, kind of.
and I think a lot of people don't like talking about that because so many homophobes use the thing of like, oh, it's a choice. And I mean, even if it is, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Women are hot. Why would I not choose to want to be with them?
Right.
And so, yeah, so it was around that time. But then, like a year later, this girl started going to my school and we started taking classes together. And so that was like my first like real life like queer crush.
Oh wow. So you became like friends with her?
Mm-hmm. We were like best friends.
What was she like?
There was this funny thing I saw on Twitter the other day. It was like, therapy isn't enough. I need to go back and fight the girl I had a homoerotic a friendship with and had a
yes, I
huge
saw
friend.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, get out of my life.
I think that's actually a lot of people's stories, like, is what I'm finding too. Like, and just, it's so funny, even watching like Pen 15 and like, which I think is so, it's so like accurate to like a friendship that I've had. And that's not the homoerotic one, right? But there is just this recognition of like, there are some girls that just like are hanging all over each other, and like there's this closeness and this intimacy that can happen in like female friendships where it's like, what lines are where? Do you feel like what was she like? What did you like about her?
I was just that age, I think we just sort of trauma bonded. Like, looking back, it was not a very healthy friendship dynamic, but I think at the time it just felt like we had so much of like the same mental illnesses. We just sort of bonded over that. Like, oh my God, you're depressed too?
Right.
You're suicidal too?
Right.
We should be together.
So she was also online. You knew her from online too?
No,
okay.
We knew each other in real life. We went to school together. Yeah.
It is so funny how both in real life and online, sad is a magnet, Did you watch Girl from Plainview? The Hulu, it's the Hulu show with Elle Fanning that's about that real life case of the girl who, like talked
boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
The boyfriend in the suit. I would be interested in what you thought about that, because it really does depict like a certain, specific corner of like Tumblr sad girl, Glee sad girl, like performing your sadness type thing that I think is like, I feel like right now the culture is starting to recognize that happened, like, and that
sadness was like a social currency.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah. Like the clout that can come with being associated with a tragedy, and how it's like, yeah, but this person's like fucked up and like clearly like needs so much validation that they've never gotten, and they're going this like bad way, this tragedy porn sort of way. But it's just like, it's really just a cycle of so many people who are so fucked up. And, And then that's like the weird thing about Tumblr where I'm like, where was it healthy and where wasn't, you know? Like, because on one hand, yeah, I was like a Tumblr girl and I was talking to my boyfriend about this the other day, just like, I am friends with so many random British punky boys on Facebook just because I was like friends with them on Tumblr and like wanted to be in love, you know?
It's so funny because I was like scrolling through my Instagram the other day and like I saw this girl and I only knew her from Tumblr and I haven't spoken to her in years, but I see like she had a kid, she's gotten married. It just
Yeah.
like threw me off. I'm like, oh, this is from a time in my life that just feels so distant now.
It's so crazy, but when you like flash back, it is they were so important. Like I was friends with this guy on Tumblr from Australia, and we were fully like, you know, my morning was his night type shit, and I would talk to him like every day, you know. Did you seek out? Talking about it right now. Clearly, I sought out romantic connections on Tumblr. Did you find yourself doing that too, or just mostly like community?
Mostly community. I don't even remember if I had any crushes on anyone
Mm,
from Tumblr. I'm
mm.
really trying to think back. I don't think I did.
Yeah,
I was like so much in like my social justice warrior bag
yeah,
at that time. I remember like because I was talking about it with a friend recently about like the disinformation that you can find on TikTok now, and I'm like,
mm,
oh, there was a lot wrong with Tumblr, but we always like wrote these essays with sources and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I was like an 18-year-old, like writing essays for like every single reply
yeah.
on a post. And now that's all just like gone down the drain with this like dancing clock app.
It's just like everything is 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps, you know, always and forever. It's fucking Paula Abdul. It's
It
Paula
feels like
Abdul
we're
over
now
here.
having like the same like discourses I was having when I was like 16. I'm like, how are we still here? I
Yeah.
thought we settled this.
It's really, it makes you insane. And it's like, you want to see the way out, you know, like that's been so much of my thinking in general in life right now is like any difficulty, whatever. I'm just like, I can get to the other side. I've gotten to the other side. I always end up on the other side of whatever the bad thing is, you know, but the culture, I don't know how to get on the other side of the culture of, you know, the round and round cycle. And it's so weird to like have been online the whole time, you know, like for people like us who found like Tumblr and whatever at like relatively a young age, it's like I have never revisited really, like I don't know if my Tumblr still exists, but like what secrets could be unfolded, you know?
It's so funny because I randomly, I had to like send a professional DM on Tumblr
Mm,
a few months ago. And so I just posted something because I used to have like a really large following. And so
mm-hmm.
I just made a post. I was like, oh, is anyone here? Thinking that I was going to be like the person who comes back to their high school to say
Yeah,
hi.
like
And like no one replied. Like, I was like, this is so annoying.
actually, I'm pretty sure I did that when I started this podcast in 2017. I'm pretty sure I went back on my things and was like, if you knew who I was then, here I am now. And like, also, I'm going to be talking about basically the same shit that happened then. Um, but this is interesting. Did you feel any sort of like real life confidence from the fact that you had this sort of like following online at the time? Did it cross over at all?
I don't think I gained confidence from the falling necessarily. I think I gained confidence from having like this like community of
Yeah.
like talking about like social issues and stuff like that. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily because I had like thousands of followers. Like
Right.
it's like that scene in Euphoria. I don't know if you watch it, where it's like she's
Passively.
popular online
Yeah.
and no one knows in real life.
Right,
It was
right.
very much that.
Yeah. But so you do think it helps you sort of like break out a little bit then as a person. Um
Mhm.
did you so at the time of this friendship, did you recognize it as developing a crush, or or could you identify a moment in which it sort of like moved into those kinds of feelings?
I can't remember now like any one particular moment, but I definitely knew at the time that
Mm.
I had real feelings for her. And I was still like very deep within like my religious like brainwashing like
Mm-hmm.
programming, and so it was still difficult to break out of that. But then there was just like a lot of other things that were in the way of like making it into something more than it was. So
Yeah. Um, when you say like the like religious brain is still there, like do you feel so how is that manifesting in that relationship and in those feelings? Just like shame, or like, how?
yeah, definitely shame. The
Yeah.
first time I'd ever come out, I was 15. It was two online friends of mine, and they were just like, yeah.
We
It's
know
like,
you. We've been around.
but it wasn't until I was like 19 or 20 when I
Mm-hmm.
came out to my mom. And so it was like this process of years long process of me trying to like accept myself first.
Mm-hmm. How did you get there? What started helping you and change that for you?
Um, I don't know. I think it's just like a series of things. I wish I had more that
No,
the
that's
whole
fine.
period of time. It's so blurred to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there was any one specific moment. I think it was just like, you know, a series of unlearning and relearning,
Yeah.
you know.
So do you think that like when it came to this first crush, it was like first and foremost driven by like, ooh, hot person? Yeah. Yeah. What was she like? Yeah. Whatever you remember or are comfortable sharing. I like, I like to open the picture book.
I don't think I remember like I don't know if I remember just like how I felt like about her physically. I think
Mm-hmm.
we always just bonded like on a personality level, you
Do you
know.
think she
We
was
should,
also queer?
yeah, she was
She
definitely
was
queer. She was a
definitely, oh, okay.
lesbian. She was openly a
Oh,
lesbian.
well, there you go.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, I
it was
remember, yeah. I
it
think,
was only me struggling with my sexuality, not her.
okay. Was she like very openly into you then? Like in that way? Or just like, by the way, I'm gay, but we can be friends, but.
I think to a degree,
Mm,
but like I said, we have both had so many like traumas
right.
between us that like I think there were a lot of things like in her dating life and stuff like that that just sort of like made it that we weren't going to be together.
Yeah. I have found that like just in the same way as when you're a kid and like one of the things that makes me laugh so much is like thinking back to being in like first or second grade and us just like looking up the word sex in the dictionary and being like and being like sex, and then I remember looking up like stripper and we'll be like whoa, and like penis, like it's
I
very
remember on YouTube, I typed in girls kissing girls,
me
and
too.
I didn't realize that was like such a universal experience until I got on Twitter.
Yes, yes. I would YouTube. This was the beginning of the porn moment, was like girls kissing and then specifically girls grinding. I loved a girls grinding moment. And then I would realize like now that a lot of it is just like the beginning of the porn, and then I would try really hard because then I would be like really into that, and then I would try really hard to find that actual one because I'm like, well, I want to see the rest, and yeah, I mean that was girls grinding was really the beginning of the journey for me on the porn level. Did you indulge in porn?
Oh yeah.
When do
So,
you think you first started?
it's so funny. The first time I remember, I think I was like 9,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't like actual video. I would always just like I was a dumbass. I downloaded photos onto my family computer, but I thought like if I put it like in a secret folder, I'm like, oh, this folder is
Yeah,
not.
they will not know. Well, because
But
that's when
then
we're real children too. So we're fucking stupid. Because I was 8 too. So like, no real thought process.
and so I got banned from the computer for like a year or two.
A
Like
year. Oh my
I can't
God.
even remember how long now, but it was a very long time
Do you
before I
remember
was
what kind
allowed.
of pictures they were?
It was like a random pictures of like Carmen Electra. Like I didn't even know these women. I just remember like they were just out here.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were.
Were you ever on like MySpace and etc.?
I was, but I don't remember seeing anything
Okay.
there.
I remember I made a fake MySpace for approximately, I wouldn't even say 20, I would say 12 hours probably, where it was like I put a picture of just like porn stars with big titties like as my profile, and like it was just explicitly like an explicit profile, and I like didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I just made it, and then I got too nervous and scared and guilty, and I like deleted it. I was like, they're going to know. They're going to know. How did you feel when they found that out? What was that experience like?
It was like a big thing. It was a
Yeah.
very like big, humiliating thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember. I think my brother found it or something like that.
Mm.
And then like he told my mom, and it just became like this whole like emotional thing that night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was banned from the computer for quite some time.
Do you think that was like the beginning of like a building of sexual shame sort of that I'm assuming maybe you experienced?
No, not that I can think of.
Mm,
I think I already knew there was shame
right.
attached to that. So I don't think like the finding of it out
Okay.
like
Yeah.
exasperated that or anything. I already
Right.
knew.
I'm just wary of embarrassment. I mean, I think I've realized a lot of my like little triggery little things. I'm just like I can really trace a lot of them back to the moment of like feeling really embarrassed and feeling really humiliated and being like, I'm a fucking idiot. Everybody hates me. Like, did you want at all, like even if you knew that you couldn't, or that like there's this pressure, do you feel like you wanted like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or like a relationship when you were like growing up?
Oh yeah, it just felt like such like a coming of age thing for
Mm-hmm.
me. Looking back, I don't. None of the guys I like would have been worth it, or like
Right.
I would have been able to explore it because, like I said, I was very sheltered.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when I was younger, I would see like my friends with boyfriends, and it just felt like a very isolating feeling not having that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm grateful in hindsight to not have had to experience that.
Right. Like those people could have done other types of damage. That's what this podcast is basically. When you would like I'm always interested in like how people fantasize and what they think about when they're like yearning for a certain love that or attention or whatever that they might not be able to have. Do you have any like memories of the kinds of things you would think about?
I just remember like wanting the full high school experience of like going to like football games or like
Mm,
going to like homecoming or something like that.
yeah.
Just like all the very cliche like teen movie aspect of it all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are your shows and your movies at the time that are probably influencing that?
I'm like, what was I watching at the time? I don't remember anything in particular,
Mm.
but yeah,
But just like the typical, like, did you go to a pretty big school or was it a smaller school?
yeah, it's a fairly big school. Both
Hmm.
of them were medium sized.
Yeah. So it had like the typical American school, like there's prom, there's whatever, like type things.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to proms?
Yes, I
Yeah.
went to my senior prom with the girl I was talking
Ah,
about earlier.
okay, yeah. So how does this happen? Okay, yeah, we need to talk through this. So this is, are you just like calling each other best friends at this point? Like we're best friends.
Yes.
Mm. Do you feel like you're like a little less shy now? You're a little bit more you know, like social with her?
Hmm.
Do you think that's like just a she makes you feel sort of comfortable kind of thing?
Yeah, it was definitely that. But also our senior year, there was like this is where like the sort of like friendship decline start to happen. And so like
Mm,
I did invite her to prom, but we did have like this sort of like year long sort of battle with one another. I guess is the only
interesting.
word I can think of
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now. But it was our junior year where we were particularly close, and like it was we were always together and so tight together. But it was like our senior year, things just started to like go on a decline very quickly.
What started changing, do you think?
I think she was dating someone, and I wasn't jealous.
I wasn't jealous. I like
I
definitely
wasn't
wasn't
jealous.
jealous. I was maybe in love with her, but I wasn't jealous.
No, but then she started spending all the time with him. But
Mm,
then, so yeah, it was like there was just no time for us to bond
yeah.
or hang out with one another. And so that just sort of like we just sort of grew apart. And then like when I didn't want to hang out with her at all, then she like made like a thing about it. And I'm just like, well, we have time to hang out when you're always with him.
Right. Well, did it like hurt your feelings, you think? Like the way that the attention was sort of being diverted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any part of you that was like, that should be me?
I don't think I like
Not
I
like
said
you
I
are
don't
him, but you know.
I don't think I ever thought of a real situation where we would ever be together. So I don't think it was ever
But
that.
I'm just like, if you are not having that end goal, first of all, are you aware of that like block happening? Like, do you recognize it as a block, or is it just like how you're moving through life, you know, like not being open to whatever other possibilities there are?
I didn't think of it as a block. I think I found our friendship to be very special. And I think
Mm.
I did know that there was like this sort of like underlying like homoerotic thing to it, but I never thought of it like transcending past that.
Right. So you also thought of it as a way of protecting your friendship then, as to not like indulge in that side? Interesting. Do you have other do you have like other people in your groups that you're closer, or she's like really the person you're close to?
She was really the person I was close to.
Yeah. How did that feel when it started? First of all, did you like the boyfriend? Did you not like the boyfriend? What was the boyfriend's vibe?
I didn't know him.
You didn't
I
know
don't
him at
remember.
all? Okay.
She dated a lot of people during that time, but I remember during that particular time is when like things started to like go awry. But she dated a few people during that time. But
Mm. But there was something about this one that was a little bit different.
yeah, I mean they were just always hanging out, but it was never like him. I can't even remember him now.
Yeah, yeah. So it was
So
never
it
like
was
a third wheel situation, like you were hanging out with them. No, you didn't want
but
that.
I wanted, yeah, that's what I was like trying to avoid very
Mm.
much.
Do you think you were avoiding it because it would make you feel jealous? Or just that was
No.
not something you were interested in?
No, I think it was always just like there was just like so few minutes for us to spend together during that time. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was all he was always just there. So I was just like, oh, well, I can't spend time with him. I don't know him. So
Right, right. You're not necessarily just trying to hang out with just anyone. Yeah, so when things start changing, does it feel like there's a way for it to like resolve itself? Like, are you holding out hope that like your friendship will remain, or do you sort of see what's happening?
I saw what was happening. At one point I had sort of like broken it off completely in like the middle of the year. But
Mm.
then we like got back together
I
like
was
a
gonna,
few days later. It was
yeah. So did it feel like legitimately like a breakup? Yeah. What made you decide that you had to like do that then?
it just felt like things had just become very distant very quickly. And
Mm.
so I guess I just wanted to like call a thing a thing.
Did you feel like did it sort of get into the sort of thing where you're trying to spend time with her so then you sort of end up at her beck and call kind of thing? Like, did you feel taken advantage of in that way?
Definitely that.
Yeah. I've I've experienced that. I feel like I don't know if you relate to this, but I just feel like I after a certain point got really tired, and it's not like I still don't do this because I definitely still do this, but like of being the person to reach out, of being the person that is trying to sort of maintain a thing, and like just like why is it always got to start with me? What, like I want to ask for what I want, which will sometimes be, yeah, hanging out with a friend I haven't seen in a long time or whatever. But it does kind of get to you. It kind of chips away at you after a while of like, well, why am I always seeking and not to be sought? you know? Did you sort of like feel that way?
Definitely that.
Yeah. Has that changed for you at all? No. Yeah.
I'm actually going through something like that right now.
Mm.
I won't talk about it, but I was like, oh wow, this keeps happening.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's really easy to recognize, and for a while you can sort of convince yourself like recognizing it is doing something, and then you keep doing it and you're like maybe not. Maybe actually no. I mean, I've been trying really, really hard to not, and it sounds so like, ugh, but like truly not take things so personally, like not taking the absence of a certain thing or like the absence of a text or the absence of whatever as like a vicious attack against me. Cause it does feel that way often. But like, I don't know. I'm trying to utilize the brain for all of its mysterious powers, and just like if there's anything that I can do to shift my perspective that's going to make me less angry and sad, I'll try it. Also, other people should start acting better, but like what can I control, Like, and I also wonder like I don't think I'm just realizing this currently right now. I don't think I've ever told anyone that I felt that way towards, about that I felt that way. Like, I don't think I'm thinking of my good friend who, after the last couple of years, obviously we haven't seen each other that often. And I've been really trying to like, he's never met my boyfriend. And that's like, this is one of probably my oldest friends, and I don't have that many. I've been trying to make that happen. And I'm realizing right now, like, what would it be if I said, like, hey, I feel like I'm always really trying to put the effort into this. And I know you might not be doing it on purpose, but it feels like shit sometimes. Like, I wonder what they would say about that, Because I think a lot of the times people don't know how much they're, like, fucking each other over, Or at least that's, like, me trying to, like, act in good faith or whatever. Like, well, maybe you just don't know. Or you're being manipulative. Could be one or the other. But I wonder where that comes from. Do you have any idea where that comes from for you? Like you being the person?
I've always been like really self-aware. So I always knew I always like overextended myself, or like, if I didn't reach out to people, that maybe just the relationship would not exist anymore. So I've always known that about myself. But like you said, you think knowing something is just equivalent as like solving it, or like
right. Right.
Well, but once I get over to that second step of like stopping it.
So do you so we're talking boundary problems. We got some issues with boundaries, you and I. That's like, I mean, really, I feel like boundaries, whatever, has been such a like little hot button word in the last couple of years, but I'm like, but actually we really got to think about boundaries.
And attachment styles too.
Yeah. I feel like I talked about this a little bit on a previous episode, I think, but just I feel very much like I'm in the exact same position I was in like the end of 2019, right before COVID. Like very much, there's a lot of parallels to where I'm at in my life, But I'm hoping that's a big fingers crossed that the difference this time around will be that I know that I need to say no more. And like that I know like that I have given a lot of myself to other people and I really need to like filter it back in. And I think like, yeah, not the knowledge that that is like actually needed is helpful. I'm trying. I think I'm getting better at it very, very slowly but surely. But it's sort of like a thing that I'm realizing like you got to dip your toe and realize no one's going to fucking hate you if you say no to them, you know, or if they do, then bye, you know, then this is not serving me anymore. How do you think that has manifested in your life romantically, if it has?
I don't have much romance in my life. When the pandemic happened, it was right at a time like in my life where like things were starting to move forward because I don't want to like get too deep into my life.
Yeah,
but
as much as you and you could tell me later if you're like, actually, I don't want that in there. You know,
I got you. But I was a caretaker for my father, and then so when he passed in 2018, we still had to. My mom and I had to like wait to get all of that situated with his death. And so like towards the beginning of 2020, that's when things were looking up. And as we out at like the beginning of March, 2 weeks later, like the entire world shut down.
So
I'm like, are
crazy.
you kidding me?
It's always just in like the most cosmically like annoying, and that's putting it very lightly, annoying way that it could have happened, you know, like same shit for me. I was really like, I'm out here starting my real New York life. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then, and no. I mean, I am at least going to try and be like, well, I have grown into myself so much more after these 2 years, and there's things that I know that I didn't before, and blah blah blah. But also, yeah, I would have liked to have been 2 years ahead from rather than behind, you know. Do you feel like so going back to the girl, so senior year is when it's sort of like on the decline. How is that making you feel about yourself, if it is? Making you feel anything?
I don't know if I felt anything particularly against myself in general. I think there was a lot of things happening that year. I had fallen out with 2 other friends randomly, and then those came back together as well.
Interesting.
randomly. And so it was a lot of things. I think sort of just discombobulated me that year. So that was also on top of it. But yeah,
I wonder, did it feel like a rejection to you?
I don't think that felt like a rejection. Like, because like I said, I had sort of
you had done the breakup a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I guess I was trying to control
that, and then you're like, this is, well, now I'm gonna have agency, and actually I'll be the one to end this little thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm dealing with, and it's actually like the tweet I messaged you as I'm thinking of it right now. It's just like, there's so many things that I feel like stem from just like the feeling of not being enough, you know? And that's what your story makes me think of immediately, of like, well, why can't we hang out? Like, why can't my time with me be like more prioritized, you know? That's a feeling that I've realized has followed me. It has manifested in my life in a lot of ways, the not enough type thing. Don't know how you fix it. How do you fix it? What is enough? You know?
I would love to know. I've been in therapy for a decade now, and I still don't know.
Yeah. How do you feel about monogamy?
So one of the things that came out of this pandemic was like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's been great that, you know, that I will start dating later in life, because I think I will have a more clearer head than I guess like a lot of my peers will have about like relationship styles. I've been looking into like solo polyamory recently, where it's like, you don't have like sort of like the main relationships. You just have all these relationships, but you're technically just like by yourself, I guess.
Just
I
kind of
guess I
bopping
didn't.
in and out of.
Yes.
I use the word bopping in a lot of different just always feels right. Just bopping in, bopping out. Are you a person who likes to have likes to do your research type thing? Yeah, I feel that as well. I feel like gathering as much information and data is very helpful. Do you think that that has anything to do? Does that make you feel a little bit more in control?
I think so, to a
Yeah.
degree.
Have you had yeah, what are your feelings about like control as they relate to like your love life and your confidence?
I wish I had more of it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what do you what do you think you might be looking for now in either a romantic, sexual, whatever kind, like even a friend context, um, and how do you think it might be different or the same as what you would have wanted then if you had like the opportunity to really want? Do you know what I mean?
I think I'm right now, I'm still like answering those questions. I certainly want people with like the same values as me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it just boils down to people who have like the same values as me and people who are hot. Like if I can sort of intersect those two with one another,
Yeah,
it'll be great.
yeah. That's that makes sense. That makes sense. That's really, and that's why I'm very grateful that I met my boyfriend at a protest. Really worked out because I said, or at the encampment at City Hall. Because I could say, well, I think I know what his values are because of him here, and B, I see his face and I do think that it is hot. And then that's really two big check marks.
It's like I can't go on Tinder and be like, oh, do you want to tear down prisons with
You really
one another?
can't. You really can't because I'm also very wary now. I'm just like, is this turning into it like an aesthetic? Like on the Tinder and on the Hinge, and just like, don't date me if you think that, and I understand where it's all coming from because like legitimately don't date me if you think but I'm glad that I'm not on it. Let's just say that, because it's hard. Like that's what I'm so fortunate with my situation is that I really cut all the bullshit, and you don't want to wade through bullshit. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I want no bullshit for you. Do you have any, do you feel like excited about maybe like a new sort of chapter in your life in those circles? And this is the circles of love and romance and sexuality.
I am, it's still going to be like a minute before I'm able to explore it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping in like a year or two that I get to move to either New York or LA,
Yeah.
wherever my career takes me. But
Yeah.
right now, I'm still like in the process of just like, while I'm still here, I'm just thinking about, what I want for my future. I turn 27 next month, which is wild to
Ooh.
think about.
Happy early
Which is like,
birthday.
thank you. I'm like, how did I get here already? I
You
feel
did
like I
it.
just turned 20.
Honestly, well, I mean, not to whatever, but COVID truly. I mean, I was what, 23 when COVID started and I'm 26 now. Stupid.
I think I was 24. So
Cuz
yeah.
we were just little, like I mean, and that's the thing we talk about like I first of all talk about like 2009, 2010 truly like it was yesterday because to me it feels like that, I both feel like I've lived a lot of lives and that high school was really not that long ago, you know? Like I kind of,
Think about how it's about to be a decade that I graduated. It's just wild.
that is so crazy. Yeah. And I just like, I also just feel like no one taught me how to be old or like I was pretending to be old when I was younger, and now I am older and I feel like a baby sometimes,
I
Am I
don't know
Lena
who said
Dunham?
this. I don't know who said this, but it's like you get to an age where you're like, oh, I know everything. And then you get older and you're like, oh, I know nothing.
Right. And I'm also just like, I mean that both existentially and also just like in little things where I'm like, don't ask me about a tax or don't ask me about this or that. I'm like, don't ask me about any, like, sometimes I'll hear people talking about things that are like probably normal. And I'm just like, they sound like science majors of something that I don't understand. Um, well, I'm so excited for you as well, and wherever you find yourself doing kissing or not.
I always tell my friend, I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be so old by the time I get to be a dumb bitch.
Honestly, okay, well, first of all, doesn't have to be true. Second of all, but what's better than an older dumb bitch? That's fun.
I feel like it's not going to be as like forgiving. People aren't going to be as like forgiving. Like when you're in your early 20s and you're like getting sloppy drunk and doing like
Right.
walk of shames.
Right. But also like I feel like men do that all the time. Not to be like men can do everything, but like truly, because I literally just thought of like, yes, this is a movie, but I just thought of like, okay, what's a dumb old like hoe? And I thought of Matthew McConaughey and The Beach Bum. I'm like, we didn't bat an eye at that. We should all be striving for that kind of life. We all deserve that life, whatever it is. Bopping around Key Largo. This has been so much fun. We usually end like wrap up. Well, first of all, I want to know, do you have any sort of like closing thoughts on that crush or like those early experience? Cut it. I'm gonna ask you one more question. I'm all over the place, and I do blame COVID. I do think I have long COVID brain fog, slight, or weed. We don't know. Science will not tell me the answer. I really don't know. I guess I want to just know if there's anything that, like, from those early years of having those early formative crushes that you think, like, impacted the way that you view love and relationships now, whether it's just the religious upbringing or, just, like, however you felt growing through that.
It's so funny because I think there are still ways in which the religious upbringing I realize still like impact me today in ways that I didn't realize. I wrote an essay recently about purity culture and how it impacted me in particular. And I just wrote about, we had the whole like true love waits and no sex before marriage, and I obviously don't believe in those things anymore,
right?
But I realized even at like having that to be such a formative experience, it still just has messed me up in ways that I'm only still now dealing with.
Yeah, I think that like, yeah, this purity thing that's happening in those circles, it's very weird and interesting, and
yes.
It's just,
we fortunately didn't have a ceremony. It never got to that point, but it was also during the years the Jonas Brothers.
Yes, absolutely. Well, because I have an aunt, Patty. She's a year older than me, so she's like my best friend, my soulmate, my sister, and she like went to a Catholic school. My grandma's more religious, and I remember it was a Jonas Brothers purity ring, like sort of combination effect where like that was like all of a sudden that's being talked about, and it's not like, and even, I always thought I was like so progressive, whatever, like growing up. But even to me, it's sort of like the normalizing of it, like, well, I want a cute ring and the Jonas Brothers are cute, Did but you were not as like indebted in that way. Like you had a whole situation.
Yeah, no, I never had a ring. We never had to do a ceremony. So fortunately, it never got to that deep.
Yeah. So for you, that it's mostly that has been the impact then.
I think so for the most part. Yeah.
Do you think that, but you feel on your way to being rid of all of it? Not yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not yet. I think once I have my first orgy, it'll all be it'll all be away.
Okay, and I'll say I will pray for your orgy. I want that orgy for you so bad. Oh man, I think that's a perfect place to wrap it. We usually do talk about some young childhood crush songs, romantic songs that might remind you of those times. Do you have any songs, any picks you want to play?
I always just love I'm So Into You by Tamia.
Oh my God! 1 second. Let's play it out. Is it working? I think you hear it? This is you driving in the back of the car, looking out the window, picking out her. There's no one like you around. Oh, baby girl. This has been great. Hanna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. What would you like to plug today? You got anything you want to throw out there? Throw it all.
Not that I could think of. Just follow me on Twitter, I guess, if you want chaos.
Yeah.
On Written by Hanna at Twitter.
And follow her and do everything that you can to also help her get out to New York City, get out to because we're on career vibes right now, right? Don't be shy. Say I'm a writer.
I'm a writer.
Say hire me. Say
if you're a producer, produce my pilot.
Yes, literally. No, this is it. This is the time. I'm not even joking. I'm so like my urgency about my career is so fucking high right now, and I really think if we all put the pressure, we'll be the next gen, and it'll happen. I'm asking for it in 5 months. 5 months, I want my life to be changed completely. So change our lives, read the pilot, produce the pilot, because you want to do TV? Mm-hmm. All right. Get Hanna on your TV cruise, and that's writing vibes. And that's showrunner? What do we want? All the stuff?
All of it.
All the stuff. Give Hanna a show. And you can give me a show while you're at it, too. That's all. Thank you so much. Bye.